Good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday, April 4th, 7:31. Thank you for joining us and appreciate the flexibility to have the meeting today for those in our community that are celebrating some of the holidays. We'll do the pledge and we'll get rolling. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Ouch. All right, I got to grab the chair again.
Trustee Robert Fritchie,
Present.
trustee Dana White,
Present.
deputy mayor Omar Lopez,
Present.
trustee Manuel Quezada,
Present.
Mayor Rick Levin.
Present.
Public hearing in the matter of proposal local law 2023 title, a local law adding chapter 96, burning open to the village of Ossining Code. Any
Okay.
comment?
Mayor, I
You want to
believe
kick us
that-
off?
I believe that Pat Yost is here tonight on Zoom and does have some comments with regard to the local law.
Right. Jamie, I don't see him from this screen. I was looking for him.
No, he's an attendee, so he wouldn't be on your screen.
Oh, you're-
So,
I'm sorry. Can you bring him over, please?
sure, of course. Pat, I'm going to bring you over, but I'm going to ask you to turn your camera on and unmute. Thank you. Take just a moment. Okay. We should see him in just a second.
Right in here.
Pat, if you could turn your camera on, please.
I'm just making sure my background's blurred. That's fine.
Sure, of course, no problem.
Hey there, everybody.
It's a weird problem. Maybe later it's hurting me. Hi,
Maybe
Pat. How are you?
I am well, thank you.
You said you had comments. I saw the email.
Oh, okay, good. So I'll try not to rehash too much. First of all, appreciate the time. Let me know if I'm not speaking loudly enough. I know y'all are in
You're
a
fine.
okay, great. So yeah, so I think people know I like to read the laws and proposed, and where I think I've got some relevant commentary, I'd like to provide it. So I'll do that relative to proposed local law 3 on the burning perspective. Just in general, as an opening kind of comment, I want to say that I think I agree with the principle of the law, right? So I do believe that in a suburban environment such as ours, open burning of garbage and refuse, open burns of, large stacks of debris from construction and everything. Yes? No, sorry.
You're good.
Keep going.
Okay. From construction debris and from, open burning of lawn waste is not appropriate in an urban environment, in a suburban environment such as ours. So I'm in agreement with the general premise of the law. From that perspective, I do have some suggestions on the details of the law as it's written. And I'll try and go through those relatively quickly. I'll go through the proposed law in order. My comments relative to the law in order of the law itself. So one, I just commented on the purpose. I think that absolutely makes sense. If we go through the definition section, my first comment really is it's kind of a nit, but if it is going to be a law, under the definition of a recreational fire, it says that the fuel area should be no more than 3 feet in diameter. Reality is that, and I was actually shopping for them this weekend, and that's why I know this, is that, they're readily available, covered portable fire pits that are, 40 to 44 and up to 48 inches in size. So, so for some of the, S100 or even the S75 or just, properties from that perspective that have the space, that kind of a size container would be appropriate. And, I wouldn't want to see that, necessarily kind of eliminated, right, from that perspective. My feedback relative to the responsible adult section, says a definition of 18 years of age or older. First of all, I agree with the commentary that you need to have some fire retardant, a hose or sand or something, a fire extinguisher available for the burns and recreational fires. That makes sense to me. But as I was looking into it, and I'll speak from a personal perspective, we taught our kids fire safety at 12, and we have a gas fire pit, and we have an open, metal kind of portable fire pit in our backyard, both of which, we've been totally comfortable with them using, from 12, really, from that perspective. And there's, fire hose, and they know how to put out a fire from that standpoint. I'd also say that I was looking at the Boy Scouts of America, and they teach fire safety actually beginning at 10. So with the Webelos. So my suggestion is that 18 might be a little overly restrictive from that perspective, but this is the board's decision in the long run, right, from that standpoint. If we continue on 96-3, which is the prohibited burning section, my comment is relative to here and also relative to the next section, 96-6, which speaks to fire pits and fireplaces shall only be permitted in the rear yard. My feedback here is, and I'm not sure I'm sure there's a reason for it being stated as only the rear yard, but I would argue that there are numerous properties in the village where the side yard would also be appropriate, and where existing patios or spaces where open fire pits exist from that perspective. My property is one of them. It's a corner lot, so it's a little bit different, which brings an additional comment where the definition of a rear lot in this proposed law, which is that the corner lot, the rear yard is the yard opposite the front entry door, is actually different from the definition of a rear yard in the zoning law, which is that you basically on a corner you have two front yards, and you have a different one, which is a rear yard. It doesn't specify which of them. I know at my property, where we currently have the fire pits, according to the proposed law definition, that would not be the rear yard, and so I would basically need to reconfigure my whole yard and driveway in order to continue to maintain the fire pits. And I think that my perspective, if the intent is to just make sure that there are no fires in front yards, then I think that my suggestion is that we can just say that that no fires in front yards from that perspective. And so that's my suggestion on both 96-6C and 96-6C and 96-3C from sorry, 96-5C3. I'm getting the numbers mixed up here. All right, so from that perspective, another kind of key, yes, sorry, another key comment that I've got relative to the setbacks from the structure. I totally agree that having a minimum distance away from the structure is appropriate and relevant. And 15 feet or 15 feet for a portable fire pit, or 25 feet for a fixed fireplace. To those distances kind of make sense to me. Where it starts to fall apart though is when you add the additional requirement of an additional 10 feet away from a lot line on either a side or a rear structure. And the only reason I bring that up is that I recall from when we were working on the comprehensive planning committee that especially in the S50, S75, and the T zones, a significant number of lots that are existing non-conforming, really meaning that the side setbacks are smaller than they need to be, and in this instance more specifically, the rear yard setbacks, which are you know, the minimum of 30 in those areas are smaller than needs to be. So for example, you know, if we had the 25 plus the 10 foot away from lot line, that means 35 feet. So it could be a number of properties in the village where that eliminates the possibility of having any of these recreational fire pits or fireplaces from that perspective. So, you know, my thought there was that, you know, if what's really important is that we're keeping the fire away from building structures, and if 25 and 15 feet is, you know, an appropriate distance to make sure that, you know, a covered fire pit can't ember and spark and generate some sort of a risk, then, you know, perhaps the additional distance from a side or rear set lot line isn't necessary, as long as the 25 or 15 feet away from a building structure or is met from that standpoint. So suggest you consider that from that perspective. And I think I'll just make sure I've got all my stuff. Yeah. Oh, and I think the only other one was totally agree that it, you know, we have a place on a lake, and they're fairly stringent burning requirements up there. And it's totally reasonable that there are some points in drought, last summer, for example, where it may be inappropriate to do any burning at all, right? So I totally agree with having that clause in the proposed law where, you know, you can say there's a burn ban. You know, my suggestion is that you know, kind of follow the construct of when there's a parking ban due to snow or a snow emergency, that I believe the village manager's office, in conjunction with the relevant people, decide when that happens. My suggestion is that that would be the same organization that would put in place or state that there's a burn ban within Austin. And I think it should be coordinated across the village and the town, just to make sure. So those are my comments. Any questions?
No, I don't know if we have questions now, but I appreciate the input as part of the public hearing. Is there anybody else, Jamie, for the public hearing?
No, there's not.
Okay, anybody here? Are you here for these? No, okay, we have one person in the audience, plus a minor, she might have questions. So these are all good. You know, Stuart, I think you'll address some, but for me, a lot of this open burn is actually not about how far from structures. That's part of it. It's how far it is from your neighbor's fences, how far it is from trees, bushes, garbage cans. Oftentimes people put barbecues and all sorts of stuff, you know, near their neighbors. And so a lot of this law is not to call the police every time they see somebody burning something. And it's really about open burning. And the pits have gotten bigger. It's probably one of the reasons that they have to be actually watched a lot more. I guess I should be looking at that camera, because that one looks like I'm looking into space. So I appreciate the commentary. I think it's good stuff. I just don't know if I would agree that it's from a structure rather than structure defined in the terms that I just used. And the ability for neighbors, when somebody is burning things under a tree, which we get all the time, people put things under trees, forgetting that, you know, the flames get big and it sets things on fire. And I've seen that all over the place. So Stuart, I guess we'll go around and ask the other trustees. I don't think the fire pit should be bigger. The fact that they're sold doesn't mean that people should be allowed to have them. You know, they sell all sorts of stuff that are not actually legal to have, from sirens to lights to all sorts of stuff that are actually in many municipalities not approved, because they're allowed to sell whatever they want. And having large crowds in people's backyards with large pits is, I think the whole idea is to reduce the likelihood of flames getting out of control. The thing about the age is, I think, Pat, a really interesting question. Never really thought about an age issue of when, you know, like, is it 16? Is it 18? Is it really the purpose to have an adult present and responsibility of an adult, especially in the densely populated areas? because so many of the houses here are built from wood and a couple of dry seasons and one person's little fire out of control can really get out of hand. I think we've been pretty good, pretty lucky. But it's an interesting idea, like at what age is the right age to be responsible for setting, you know, for managing the fire. I never even thought about it. So thank you for, sorry about that. Thank you for bringing that to the forefront as to an age. I didn't hear what age you thought was an appropriate age. And not everybody goes to Boy Scouts and not everybody that goes to Boy Scouts knows how to manage a fire. So what did you think was the right age? Do you have an opinion on that, Pat?
My perspective would be, you know, at a minimum, if someone's okay enough to drive, they should be okay enough to understand the risks associated with a fire. You know,
About
for me
16 or
personally,
something like that?
16, yeah, that's my opening piece. I actually, in my house, I would have been comfortable with my kids at 14. You know, probably not much below that. You know, realistically, it is, you know, kids develop at different ages, different speeds, and have different levels of responsibility.
Okay.
You know, from
Alright,
individual to individual, but you know, I was thinking either somewhere in the 14 to 16 range.
Okay. And I think the frontage of, I live in a corner property too, except I have trees on mine, and that's why for people with trees and bushes and all the stuff that they have, it actually makes a difference. So Stuart, the zoning piece, defining, I guess, the corner properties are complicated, right? Like how you define, maybe they're not complicated, but that's something that Pat had brought to our attention.
Simply change it to the definition that exists in the code now.
Okay, great. All right, so anyway, comments, folks, to my left? Anybody? Are you, okay, and you guys, to my right?
I just have a question about the size of the fire pit. What the law says no larger than how big? I'm
Diameter.
3 feet.
3 feet.
gonna go measure mine. But how is that, oh, I got one. How is that decided upon, the 30 inches?
3 feet.
3 feet.
That is virtually every local law that I looked at. That was the diameter that was in
Okay.
it.
Yeah, the open fire issue comes up this time of the year. It's also New York State has strict open burning leaves. You're not allowed to do burning branches.
54
and all
inches is
that,
pretty big. That's
Huh?
like a bonfire size fire
3
pit.
feet?
No, 54?
Yeah,
That said he's seen 54.
and this is, you're allowed to sell things. It's, doesn't mean they're legal to be used. They're legal to sell.
I didn't see any that were, you know, 50 plus, right? I did see a bunch that were, you know, between 3 and 4 feet, right?
Okay,
So, you know, if something for me that's, you know,
Yep.
especially in larger lots, a four that has an existing patio and stuff, 4 feet doesn't seem to be, you know, but the person, just personally, right? It just doesn't seem to be too
Right.
big. I agree that once you get starting bigger than that, you start running the risk of much more of a risk of embers popping out simply because you've got way more wood in
So-
there.
if I may just interrupt here. This open public hearing is not a conversation. It's
Right.
supposed to be, no, I appreciate the conversation. If we had 20 people, we would have said, everybody gets X number of minutes, which we do in the beginning if we have a bigger crowd. Not your fault, and it's a good conversation, but the back and forth, I think it's just the questions and we'll go through it. Was that your only question?
Yes.
Okay, and sir? All right, so what would be, if you could also add some commentary, because I think you wrote this based on, as you just stated, things that are available in other municipalities for consistency, for what we know has been approved. Do you have any comments about some of the issues? The zoning you just addressed, I don't know how much we want to say 3 feet or 4 feet. It doesn't seem to be a big difference to me. I mean,
I'm just
know,
going again.
by what you've seen in others, right?
So
From here across the state, it's 3 feet.
I do have one question as far as a fixed fire pit.
Oh, yeah, that also was in your email, in your
Well,
memo that.
Is there any restrictions on the size of a fixed fireplace?
Fire pit.
Hmm?
Fire pit or fireplace?
Fire pit, fireplace.
I don't know.
No, I'm
They're
talking
two
about,
different things, because fireplaces actually require permits, I think, correct?
correct. But is there a restriction on size? Permanent or not?
thought there was, because Pat actually mentioned it in his email about the permanent piece. Didn't raise it now, but it was in the email.
Well, what it says is the definition is for recreational fire. It's an outdoor fire burning clean wood in an approved container where the fuel area shall be no more than 3 feet in diameter and no more than 2 feet in height. So there's no size requirement into that. That deals with the size of
Right.
the fire. So that, but there's no size requirement in here specifically as to fixed and or portable fire pits other than the 3 feet with regard to the recreational fires.
As the size of the fire,
Mhm.
not the size of the actual,
Structural.
No, that's in another
Device.
paragraph.
no, the device could be 5 feet. You just have to have a 3 foot by 2 foot fire in it.
That's correct.
And I think the permanent ones you actually need permits for, right?
Yeah, it
Yes.
says that.
No,
Yeah.
no, that
I was just wondering if
so-
there was restrictions on that also.
So out of the conversation, and there's only one person for public hearing, are we suggesting any changes to what's currently written? The zoning
It would be
you
a small
agreed with?
changes to zoning. The question is if you want to change, for example, age. I mean, we use the term responsible adult. If you're under 18, you're obviously not a responsible adult.
Right,
would
you
have
could
to-
be responsible, but you're not an adult.
Right, but I should point out that, again, throughout the state, the term is responsible adult. They don't
differentiate.
generally go, I mean, there are some locations that go younger, but generally the term is responsible adult. And we added in, someone who's not under the influence of drugs, alcohol, or otherwise unable to basically do the job, but, but again, that's the
Okay,
board's.
so
the
does
board's-
anybody, I don't want to go through this, in 5 more meetings. Does anybody have an opinion of, it seems like 16, 17, 18. 18 is an adult, so do we want to lower it to 16 or to 17? I don't think this requires, there's nothing to analyze. It's just really the way we feel. There's no right or wrong here. I think it was just brought up and, this is a law that it's to prevent fires, basically. And it also, in my opinion, gives neighbors the opportunity. They look out their window and they're like, you've got a 7-year-old watching, burning fire. That's not allowed. And then they can do something about it, either go to the neighbor or so call the police or whatever. So I'm only looking at you because you're in uniform, so.
That
Looking
might-
your way.
The only
So-
question I
so
have
what
is
are the
with the
thoughts?
height of the fire. That's, I don't know, 2 foot's not much. I'm not saying you're gonna go out and have a full blown bonfire, but you 2-3 logs on a fire, you're
Yeah.
36 inches high.
Yeah, I actually think this whole thing is to work against bonfires. I think whoever, the beginning of this was to stop the bonfires in people's backyards. I
I
think that's
understand that.
actually, the macro gist of this whole thing. So how do you do that? Well, you do the height, you do the length, no, I think that's really where it starts, because the bonfires were causing problems.
Oh,
But
I-
you're suggesting
agree.
maybe a little bit bigger.
You know.
All right.
So
next.
I'll just go. I'm indifferent on the age, whether it's reduced to 16 or stays at 18. The language around having the village manager make the call of when open burning should be prohibited, I thought that made sense. If not that, then my question would be, who would be the person or what would be the office? What would it be? Oh, the state. Okay, the state. Okay, there you go. So maybe that would be fine then. And agree on the changing the language around the corner lot, rear yard, all that.
Zoning.
Yeah, to what's in the code. Great.
All
Thank you,
right,
Pat. Appreciate the close read.
Thank you. So,
We keep-
thank you, but Stuart wants us to give him direction as to what we want.
Yeah, Pat raised an issue about the setbacks. Is the board okay with what we currently have in the code, which is a setback both from structures or combustible as well as a setback from property lines? Pat's suggestion is that the setback from the property lines could be done away with, but
So the setback under the second idea would be from, where would it start? From the
setback for
structure?
both, well, for a fixed fire pit or fireplace, that can be no less than 25 feet from the structure or combustible material for a portable fire pit or fireplace no less than 15 feet from a structure or combustible material unless the manufacturer's specifications require a greater setback. What we also, though, have for both is that the fire pit fireplace shall be no less than 10 feet from the side yard and rear yard property lines.
Imagining it, give me a minute.
So I just have one question. Does a fire burn different in a fixed pit than a portable pit? That you could put the portable pit 10 feet closer to the house?
They do actually function differently, in my opinion.
Fire's
because
fire.
one can- Well, one gets turned over when kids run around or people put their feet up on it and all of that. So the difference, even if you have a really strong portable, they flip over actually pretty easily. The station ones actually, the ones in the ground don't. They're,
You're allowed to have the portable one closer.
yeah, no, I'm listening to what you're saying with the distance. That's, maybe we should just make them the same as I think what you might be suggesting. All right. Did you hear that one, Stuart, what he said? Well, I think, everybody okay with that?
Someone, how would that read then? I mean, what are?
You guys make sure you're speaking into the microphone.
Yeah,
Would then say the fixed fire pit fireplace, portable fire pit fireplace, shall be no less than 20 feet from the structure or combustible material. However, again, if the portable, the manufacturer's specs say 25 feet, you got to be 25 feet.
okay.
So can,
that's-
Why is that a problem?
so can I ask a general question? And that's something that Pat brought up, sure. There are lots that are undersized.
Mhm.
So how do you deal with something like that? I want to have a fire pit in my property, but I really don't have a big backyard, a small backyard. So I will not be able to allow to put a fire pit.
You may have a lot that you can't put a fire pit on. It's as simple as that.
Yep.
It's the way, can't please everyone.
Not even a little portable one? It's
No,
hard,
if
how do you,
if you're too close to, another area that could be combustible or to another structure, the answer would be no, you're not supposed to have it.
Trying to think which ones that is.
A lot of properties.
If you lower the number of feet, the problem with that is that's when it becomes dangerous. That's actually one of the problems. You're in Spring Street, you have,
I have room.
yeah, but you're
I don't
average on
think I have
Spring.
25 feet. Definitely, I definitely do not have 25 feet.
Because you're very typical of.
Correct.
Of
So
of
literally,
downtown.
the neighborhoods that they use a lot,
Well,
are very
everybody uses
limited.
a lot. I don't
know,
think it's a
to-
neighborhood thing.
No,
I
no,
think
but
it's
let's talk about,
everywhere. Yeah.
let's be realistic, sure. Let's be realistic. Just like Pat said, there are a lot of, and Pat knows better than I do, and probably Omar, you recall when we did the study a couple of years back about the comp plan, the comprehensive plan itself, there's a lot of, literally overall lots are undersized. And that was one of the major reasons we were trying to deviate in some of the stuff we modified the setbacks.
Mm.
So if we're establishing a law that we saying a lot of these neighborhoods will not be allowed, like Stuart said, they will not be allowed to have a
Right.
fireplace.
Well, they can't because they don't have
So,
enough room.
exactly.
yeah.
So now it's how many of those property owners are gonna be like, yes, I read the law, I saw the law. Half of them, they won't even be aware of that. So my concern is that
So
we
how
are
many feet
thinking,
do you
and-
think?
yeah. So I don't know. I don't know the answer. I don't know what the balance it could be in situations like that. And we have to have a balance.
Right, but it's sort of our job to make a decision. So that's the whole point of doing these things. Your guess is you live there, you're looking at your own neighborhood, you're right on Spring.
Like I said,
You know, and Pat's talking about, there is no magic number,
Yeah.
but our number is as good as anybody else. We live in this community. We're bringing up issues that anybody else would. In this case, it was only Pat, but good, you know,
Thanks, Pat.
You're saying that it should be lowered, maybe, but to how much? Because
See,
the whole
right
idea
now, yeah,
is, yeah.
Of course. Yeah, no, exactly. Right now we have a setback for I want to call it a small accessory, a shed. Sure, you
Mhm.
have to be 5 feet away from each property line, the side lot itself.
Mhm.
So is it something suitable with along those lines? I mean, I have a small backyard. A lot of people have. I'm not talking about myself. It doesn't matter to me.
No, I wasn't
I
implying
just
that
don't
it's
wanna- I
about you,
just-
but
yeah,
you live in a
that's what
typical
I'm
on
saying,
Spring
exactly.
Street,
So-
a property.
Yeah, so I don't know what the compromise will be. It's definitely not 25 feet.
Okay, so
That's
it's
for
not
sure.
25, but it certainly isn't 5, and it's got
Yeah.
to be from a structure. So we're gonna have to come something. You also have a lot in a neighborhood that
Yeah,
has like. Actually, so do
neighborhood
you.
is
Your
also-
property just in the back is actually quite narrow. The front is big.
You too.
I'm good.
No? So you
He's
can have
good.
one.
Yep.
Okay.
In fact, I have one.
All right.
So, no, and you have to make sure that it's not near other people. All right, I don't want to spend like hours on this, folks, so you all live in the community. 15, what are we at? 20, 25?
How far is it from that wall to that wall?
Well, I'm sorry. What?
Oh, because you
Trying to
can't
get it out.
visualize 25. What are these, 2 feet?
Okay.
10 feet.
10.
10.
This
So
is an
double that.
8-foot table, 8, right? 8 and 8, 16, correct? 6 feet?
This is not an 8-foot table.
No, it isn't.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Is it? All right, so
Yeah.
you're thinking this is 10?
Yeah.
This is- Well, this is 2 feet. The tiles are 2 by 2, am I
Oh,
right?
here we go. He's got the tool. Here
Oh,
we
you have
go.
the tool. We're
Yeah.
gonna, you want to visualize what that is?
Yeah, I'm trying to get a sense of-
Hit that wall.
Because if you have to be X number of feet from your
That's
house.
from
and then
here,
X
yeah,
number of
okay.
feet from the property line and then X
Okay.
number of
Okay,
feet.
we
from the
got it.
property
Hold
line.
on,
Do the
hold
wall.
on,
Do the
hold
wall.
on. Then, so from here, from the edge to the back of the wall is 27 feet.
Wow.
All right, so 25 is not that
So
awful.
25 is more or less,
Yeah.
let's say.
From
here to
there,
there.
The back of the
which
wall.
is a lot of backyards. What are you talking about?
That's my whole backyard.
Yeah, but that means, oh, I
Also
see. So you
bigger
would
than
be
a
able
lot
to
of
do it.
backyards.
So we would probably have to do it like at something like,
10.
no, that's too close to
15.
neighbor. Yeah, probably about 15. If that's,
I listened, you got to tell me.
I know.
One of those
It's a-
circumstances.
Okay, Stuart,
I
it's a work
cannot-
session. We're having a conversation with each other. We can't look at each other because we're all sitting this
No
way.
conversation.
No,
I just,
We're not actually asking, we're just,
good.
okay, well, we're not
So
asking.
I think, you
So
know,
15 probably makes most sense. It'll hit all the Spring Street neighborhoods, State. It'll hit your neighborhood, Ferris, it'll hit your neighborhoods with backyards. You have to have the backyard. Still can't do it.
Sound like nobody can.
microphone. right.
Okay.
I mean, people, if they,
He's gonna come out here and like embarrass you. So your whole neighborhood, your neighborhood, all
So
of.
it's still
But
like
is
the
it-
chairs,
but
like
it's
from here to
still-
the chairs,
no,
like the
but-
front row?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, from here.
To
I want to
those
say from
stairs is about
here, because
15.
remember, 27 feet is from here.
No, I'm saying, but what's 15?
15 is those first
It's
row
like-
of chairs.
that's what I'm saying.
15, yeah, more or less.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
'cause these are 5 apparently.
of course, mathematically, Bob, but I'm saying just visually, that's what we're trying to get to visually.
Okay,
It's like the
are we
first
good
row.
with 15?
But-
Are we good with 15?
If the
So-
chairs are 15 feet away.
It'll
that's
fit
no,
most
so-
neighbors,
so-
most of the
so-
neighborhoods. Yeah,
So is it 15 from each lot line?
we're doing from structure, no?
Structure. Okay,
Which means if you have a shed in your backyard or you're keeping your car in some shed you built, that's a structure.
right.
So
So is a fence on
So
your
is the
neighbor's
fence.
yard.
Yeah, that's what I'm
my
asking.
next,
Yeah.
right, so 15 makes sense to me. You need space between neighbors or the first thing that turns over is setting up a whole bunch of houses on fire. So 15 works for people better than 20, 25?
15 from all structures.
Okay, we're gonna go with 15 because that seems to fit most of the neighborhood houses. What now?
No, we're good.
Okay,
Age.
and the age, I'm actually good with 16 and up. I don't wanna like, if it's a lot of work, it's a lot of work, but I
I
thought
think it's
16
fine.
sounded fine
16
to me.
16 is fine.
Since people are indifferent, let's go with 16. And what was the other? That was it, right? The part of the zoning. Okay, I think we covered the bases, yes?
You have the village manager to be the one to.
Yep,
decide.
we said that before, yep.
No, because I know there was some question of should it be Office of Fire Prevention and Control, so that's why I
Nope.
asked the question. Okay, we're keeping with the 3 feet diameter and the 2 feet.
I
in height?
actually believe that's the right diameter.
Smaller backyards, yeah, you should have a smaller.
Yeah, even more so.
Me too.
No, but I think 3 feet, you looked it up just now, right? That's,
That's 3 feet.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Right.
No, this, yeah, no, the size of fire pit,
yeah,
yeah, correct.
it's 3 feet, so you can go up to 5. Anyway, okay, yes, the answer is yes on that.
Good.
Thank you. Next,
Need a motion to close the public hearing, please.
do we have a motion to close the public
moved.
hearing?
So moved.
Second?
I'm not asking for comments because we just had the comments. You need to call a vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Proposed local law 2023 title, a local law amending chapter 216 sidewalk cafes, outdoor dining and sidewalk sales of the Village of Ossining Code.
All right, is there, Jamie, is there anybody on Zoom?
There is one person, I am not sure. So there's 2 people. One I don't believe has anything to comment on. If the other person would like to raise their hand,
If they're-
it doesn't look
they're
like they're
specific-
participating. They're just here to watch the meeting.
Okay. Anybody here to discuss? Going once, going twice? Going 3 times. So the board, do we have comments in this proposed law?
Can someone remind me what the salient points are of this law?
Yes, the parklets would be, there would not be a time frame in terms of open and closing in terms of the time of year.
Oh,
It also would restore the village clerk as the licensing
Okay.
officer rather than the building inspector.
Okay,
okay.
any comments on my right?
No.
Comments on my left?
No, I guess the only question that I will have is, well, the building inspector will still have to review anything in regards to, because before the clearance and everything else needed to be.
No, he always does.
But that's
The
part
issue
of the
is
problem.
licensing officer, the one
that's
who
fine.
actually issues the parklet permit.
I understand
So
that part.
yeah,
I understood that
he
part
has-
last time.
He's
Okay.
fine.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm a little surprised because I thought at least 2 other people were talking about that we have to start them and end them on a date. And is that changing here or is that what's
So-
happening?
We will not have them during the winter months because we can't have them when when you plow. However, last year, we decided to start them on April 1st. If it, depending on the weather, we might want to close them. If we have a early winter, we're going to close them early. If it's a little later, maybe we can go to November. It really depends on the weather. But this does not mean they will be there year round. It just means if we decide to open an earlier date or close an earlier date, you don't have to come back and redo the law.
I know, but we've gone through this before. There's no good deed goes unpunished in municipalities. And I think we need an end date like the November 1 or October, whatever, because those platforms don't get cleaned under them. The city's having huge problem with dead mice and rats and all sorts of stuff because you can't clean under these wooden platforms. And so I prefer closing dates that everybody knows. Otherwise, you're going to make a decision and we're going to have people complaining and screaming and going because I didn't know. And I made plans for November 14th for some dance or, whatever. So,
We can still set the dates.
okay.
So
talk to
we
me
can
about
still,
that.
we can still set the date. This date is not the date was in the local law because we had originally thought we were just going to do it during COVID.
COVID, got it.
So we can have a local law that allows for parklets, Stuart, correct me if I'm wrong, but we can still say the close, I can send an email out tomorrow saying the parklets will be closed on October 31st. That's still within our purview based on our agreement. And right now our agreement is that they paid $75 for the parklet season from April 1st to October 31st. So that did not change in the information that we sent them. It's only that the local law, the only reason we had to come back and redo the local law is because the dates were, we changed it last year through a second amendment to the local law.
Oh, so you want to
And so we
prevent
just,
that?
so we don't want to have to go back and forth. So this way, but that doesn't mean that we can't say, we can determine what the dates are without a local law. That's not part of the law. It was only part of the law because of COVID.
Okay, so you want to avoid having us to go through this.
Yes.
So
changes.
my,
Okay.
my
anything
question
else?
is, who's determining the date?
I think she
Right
is.
now, the dates are, unless the board would like to consider something different, the dates are April 1st to October 31st.
The law just, I think, I misunderstood it. So the
No,
law-
I understand it.
oh,
I just, when
oh, it's
there's,
a village manager. I
they could
think, or is
change the
it
dates,
board?
who's changing the
So
date?
right now, those would, I would not,
with
I
that.
would not advocate to change those dates. Somebody may come and ask to change the dates.
Doesn't the local law say the village manager after conferring with the village board?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
it's,
so it's
that's
the
the
same way we
answer.
do everything else. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I misread it. All good. Okey dokey.
Do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So move, motion to close?
Second?
Great. We've already had the comments, so
Aye.
Just one thing, folks, to correct one thing. With regard to the earlier local law, because there are some changes that need to be made, it will have to come back to work session, have to be called for another public hearing.
Okay.
So we are probably sometime April or May.
Oh, you can't change it now. So
No, because the law that comes before you at a public hearing is deemed to be the final version.
Okay,
So since you've made changes, we got to start the process again.
Yeah, but that's the reason why we have the public hearings.
I got it. He's just making sure everybody understands.
Mayor and trustees announcements?
Anybody have any announcements? Anybody have announcements? Okey dokey. Was that a yes? I was saying no.
And
So we're not done. I appreciate you rushing through this though, so
No
we can get out here on a normal hour, not like the previous couple of weeks. I just want to wish everybody, there are 3 holidays. I wrote about in the mayor's message. Want to encourage people to go. They did a very nice job downtown markets that runs a farmer's market downtown that with recipes, but really it just reminded me that it's actually we've had 2 consecutive years, but actually next time we'll have this is in 30 years, where all 3 of the major religions, not everybody's religion, but the major religions in this country are converging. So happy holidays and a joyful holiday to all those that are celebrating the festivities this week and next for their holidays. Otherwise, I don't think there are any more announcements. Okay,
administrative reports, village manager Karen DeTore.
Thank you, Janet. So our first solar roof installation on the central garage looks like it'll be wrapping up very soon, and within the next few weeks, it should be up and running.
ooh, when's the
starting-
ribbon cutting? Don't run so
Yeah,
quick.
yes.
When's the
Well,
ribbon
as soon as we
cutting?
have a firm date, we will make sure we schedule that. We are also starting the preliminary work down at the east side of the tracks to do a solar canopy there. So that'll be getting started within the next few months as well. The electrical work for the 5 corners redesign is scheduled to start this coming Monday. And we have ordered the signal posts, and they'll be arriving, but that's probably going to take several weeks to a couple months. So as soon as we get the signal post, we'll be completing the work. So we'll be looking to complete the 5 corners installation certainly before the end of the year, but likely in the fall. And at this time, we have little disruption anticipated. An RFQ for the design phase of the Route 9 road diet, which is really a safety improvement measure to narrow the road, make it more walkable, make it safer to cross, reduce accidents, calm traffic, reduce speeding. That RFQ was issued
I
today.
want, we had this conversation earlier. I want to make the public aware because the wording is so bad, the way the state puts it. It's also going to increase parking so that businesses there who have suffered
Correct.
from no parking and that people can walk across with young children, with whatever, can actually cross Route 9 without having to jog across or run across as they do today. So it is safety, but it's also parking.
Yeah, so there's the safety element, the walkability, and there's also the parking element, which is similar to many of the other river towns south of us. where it's a little bit slower to get through, but you do have opportunities to stop and park, and that would create more parking for some of our upper Main Street shops and some of the shops on the other side of, on the west side of the Route 9, as well as for our community center. On tonight's agenda, we also have speaking of the community center, we also have a resolution to approve the bid for the computer center pools and locker room renovations. And so that is on the agenda tonight. So we will be getting started with that work. And hopefully that we'll be able to get started and wrap that up in certainly again before the end of the year. That's our goal, but hopefully earlier. Work on the so long anticipated work on the 16 Croton elevator will be starting this month. So yay, we will be
I'm
working on
expecting a ribbon cutting for that as well.
we are going to have a ribbon cutting and a launch. We're going to actually launch it. So
And who's the first one on the elevator? I'm just
I'll be
saying.
the first one. Yes. I have a couple of people in mind, but I'll definitely be first. So anyway, but that's an exciting project that we've been waiting for a long time for. We anticipate the final contracts for the Downtown Revitalization Initiative projects, our DRI projects, will be ready on or around June 1st. Based this, we're waiting from the state. So currently we're reviewing updates to the project descriptions because there's been slight tweaks to the project since they were submitted with the state. And later this week, we'll be circulating a draft community engagement plan, which will provide the board with several options as to how they would like to proceed with getting the community input for the DRI project. So we have a lot of different platforms and ways for the board to engage with the public and for us to make sure that we get a lot of input on these projects. In terms of day-to-day operations in the village, parklets were installed last week. We were just talking about parklets. So we're looking forward to another great season of outdoor dining. Within the next week or so, we'll start to see the installation of the Big Belly solar trash compacting bins. And as you may recall, these contained bins hold a lot more trash, and their software, which is solar powered, enables them to compact and then alert sanitation when they were full. So we're looking forward to having those installed. So keep your eye out. They'll be appearing. And thanks to the effort of our IT staff and cybersecurity consultants, to Stuart, to Marissa in HR, we will be issuing a village and town IT policy this week. And this is part of one of our strategies to mitigate one of our many strategies to mitigate cybersecurity threats. It's an important step. It will be in effect for every single person who is an employee or the village of a town, as well as the elected officials and volunteer board members who use village or town emails, use our network. So, and the police department too. So we're excited about that because cybersecurity threats are real and we're doing everything we can to prevent them. DPW is mobilizing to pave Ann Street and over the next few weeks, and that will complement the work that was recently done on Brandreth and Broadway and around Dewar Circle. So that's a first step in this season's continuation of paving, and I'll have a larger update for you on that next week probably. And as far as events, I just want to, I know the mayor mentioned it in her mayor's message, but we did have the Big Bunny on a truck. So in Ossining, neither rain nor snow nor sleet nor hail will stop the Big Bunny from making his tours during the holidays. So what? Or her, but theirs will just be safe. And so the Big Bunny was on the road, thanks to the fire department, giving out goodies to all the kids and some dogs. And just want a reminder, on Friday, April 7th, it's Good Friday. St. Anne's will have its Good Friday procession throughout Ossining, and that will take place at 7 p.m. And our police department will be on hand managing traffic flow and making sure everybody's safe during that procession. And also we have Green Ossining's 13th annual Earth Day Festival coming up, and that will take place on Saturday, April 22nd at Lewis Engle Riverfront Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Corporation Counsel, Stuart Kahan.
Thank you, Janice. Good evening, folks. There is a ZBA meeting, Zoning Board of Appeals, on Tuesday night. It is a long, to put it mild, agenda because we did not have a meeting last month. So if people want to watch in or see what's on that agenda, there are many, many items, a lot of things to listen to, a lot of different discussions. We have a very active zoning board. It's the way to put it. They are very much aware of what goes on these cases. They study them. They come in prepared with briefing books, and they know their stuff. So if you're interested in that, please do that. We have just finished the first quarter, and it's interesting to note that at this rate, and Janice can back me up on this, we will be at approximately 900 FOIL requests for the year. So we have 225 through the end of March. We're already at 200, just about 230 now. And if we hit 900, that will be over 180 more than last year. So you can just see the numbers that are going up, and every single year is an increase in FOIL requests. I can't say enough about the work that the clerk's office does, and that because they all start there, and then what the different departments do. It's an immense amount of stuff. Sergeant McGovern, Lieutenant Donahue, with regard to OPD, from personnel, from finance, DPW. The FOIL requests literally run the gamut. We are hopeful that with the Laserfish system coming up, we can cut those numbers down so that a lot of people will be able to get the documents which they now request through FOIL, essentially through Laserfish. But it's exceptionally time intensive. And that's not just from my perspective, but, basically every morning I get another 5 or 6 from Janice just to see, oh, here's another one, and they all come in. But I do want to, at this point, just to thank all the village staff who do this, because it is untold hours to go through these FOIL requests. And when we are talking, as I said, we will be at 900. I see no reason that it will slow down. And we could easily crack 1,000 this year. In comparison, I think the town, I don't think they're at 100. So it's just sort of, if you sort of compare apples to apples, it doesn't really work. Everything comes to us, particularly because with regard to police reports, we all get them anyway, even if it's something that happens in the town. So we get them all here, but everybody responds promptly. We do get some FOIL appeals, which I have to respond to. They get out. So everyone is doing their part. And I just wanted to publicly thank everyone, because first quarter has been very heavy, and don't see any reason that that's going to stop. So thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? I actually spoke to village manager earlier, and I want to sort of get a handle on the FOILs and start getting data, whether it's a few people asking for a lot or a lot of people asking for a few, and where they are. Because I think data actually in and of itself is a story told. And I don't need the answer, and I don't want the answer, but I think the data will speak for itself. And I think that just like every other professional measures hours, there actually doesn't have to be untold. You could do 1 month on an average and use that as a proxy for 12 months and say that it's the taxpayers are paying for, 2,000 hour of time to do FOILs, to get a sense, because we do that with other things. And I think it's important to have the data. It's not that we're not going to do the FOILs. It's simply to get an understanding of how people's time is being spent. Most people, and this is an interesting conversation that I have with constituents, think that we spend our time building things and working on, doing like the road diet, which is a state road. Actually, most of the time is being spent on just everyday business and everyday requests from constituents and some non-constituents, because they're trying to get information about something. It's doing the weddings. It's, making sure the water is clean. It's just running the business of a municipality. So some of the data points can be, especially when you see trends that are escalating at such a high rate or de-escalating. And it'll be interesting to see with the Laserfish if, in fact, it does. I agree. I think it will help, but it'll be interesting to see how much it helps. So we don't really need an answer tonight, but I do think there is a way to gather some of that for the
only
next
thing
quarter.
I can say to you, Mayor, is that in the past, 85 to 90% of the foils were building department. That number is changing where the police department is rapidly getting to probably 30 to 40% of the
Okay.
FOIL requests. And not just from a few individuals. We're getting FOIL requests for every type of police report, body camera images,
Mhm.
disciplinary records. It's the whole gamut. But
Interesting.
the police have gone up. Building department has decreased a little bit. And then after that would really be finance personnel. They're in a much smaller numbers. But
Right.
really your two main are building. And when I say building, I mean building / planning, but almost exclusively building. Planning is a much lesser number, and police. Those two are.
Didn't we
the-
put a system in place 2, 3 years? It's got to be longer, 4 years for the building where you can get a lot of the information without foiling? Because there was an issue that like every time a realtor needed something, a developer, and now don't they get that online? So that speaks to your point about the new system at the clerk's office where that should be helpful as well.
Yeah, Laserfiche and Municity Connect are going to work hand in hand. So I think that, building department is, there are certainly some people who, even if it's very accessible to them, would still rather us do the legwork, and that's fine.
Mhm.
But for those who, need it at 10 o'clock at night and they don't wish to wait, a week, it's going to be very convenient for them.
Right. It's actually a convenience factor for those that are more comfortable with technology. And over time, most people become comfortable. It's always the beginning. So I think it's helpful from a customer service point of view. Okay, anything else, Stuart? No? Okay,
Thank you, Stuart. For the police department, we have Lieutenant Donahue. Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
we're good. Good evening.
The most recent current events is obviously everyone is aware that there was a fire today.
Not everyone, but yes.
Those here in the.
Those who work here every day, yes.
Obviously a very unfortunate situation, and we're hoping that the resident pulls through and is okay. I do think it was an important exhibit of cooperation and collaboration between the PD, the FD, and EMS. So it's always good to see all three emergency services coming together for the greater good. Obviously a very tragic situation anytime anyone's home is damaged. But I do think there is that silver lining, which is that it shows that hard work by our first responders.
Mhm.
Aside from that, I have nothing really to report unless the board has some questions.
I don't, but in addition to what you said, from what I gathered in the little video clip or pictures, the gentleman who just suffered a loss in his life also is a little bit up there. I wouldn't say elderly, but older, only because I'm getting older. So, but really fell into the first responders' arms. I mean, he was burned. He was like, I think they saved his life. Yeah, I think they saved his life, and that's monumental. That's a very big deal. Saving a human life is like the most important thing. So I appreciate everybody involved. And now, obviously, there's some cleaning up to do, and hopefully he makes it out of the hospital and with good health. Does anybody have questions? Okay.
Thank you. Organizational announcements. Announcement shall be related only, shall not be longer than 2 minutes on that.
Anybody else?
Right now, there doesn't look like anybody in here. Is there a person in the room interested in
Yes,
speaking?
you have an organizational announcement? Okay. Go ahead. Thank
Public
you.
comment on agenda items. Visitors shall be accorded to 1 4-minute opportunity to address the board of any resolution on the agenda.
Okay, do you have something? Good evening.
Good evening. June Carver, 19 Lincoln Place. For one, I just wanted to respond to the administrative reports, what Council Khan had said about the foils. Like, it would be good if the Connect would start working, because it's not been working for a very long time. And due to the tech, and I know that those would probably be building related foils, but it's a little frustrating. This is like a long time that it's there, but you can't access it. So that would be, I'm glad that was brought up. And also with the village manager's report on having community input with the DRI projects that are coming. I'm hoping that, I just want to put it on the table, when we first started with the DRI project, that first community meeting or the couple of community meetings you had, it really wasn't a community meeting. It was more of, this is what the project is and choose which one that you would go for. I don't think that it was kind of fair to the community because it wasn't any input that we could put. It was already pretty much decided. So I just wanted to respond to those two things. And the items that I wanted to speak on was the resolution D with the adjustment of the 2022 improvements for the Joseph G. Caputo Community Center in the renovations. And I know that the pool, it takes a lot to resurface, but like, when do we draw the line? We've been putting a lot of money into the pool itself, in the locker rooms and the pool. Like, the community center is not just the pool. So I think that we have to look at that and assess that, because now we're taking another additional $263,534.91 from the general fund in order to do something that we have a lot of money for already. So I think that has to be addressed, that we keep putting money into this pool in the locker rooms. The other issue I wanted to address was resolution H, adoption of expense reimbursement. This is just a question because on the approval by Board of Trustees required, in this paragraph, it says that the elected official shall send an email to the Board of Trustees with a copy to the village manager, identify the event. So then it says, in the event that a request was not made to the board prior to the event, the board may be majority vote at a public meeting. So my question is it mandatory that they send an email, or is it just, if you send an email, you send an email, if you don't, you don't?
So these are listening sessions, but when we get to it, we'll go through
Okay,
it.
so that
I'm
was
gonna
a
mark it.
question.
Yeah, no,
that I
it's a
had.
good question.
And then resolution N, the creation of the village Ossining placemaking committee. I just really had a comment in doing this. I hope that the committee reflects all parts of the community, not just a part, like, because we are big on diversity here. So hopefully the committee would not just look all the same. It would reflect who we are as a community in every part of the community. I think that was it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I'll just say thank you. Thank you for that comment. And that is absolutely our intention as we find people who'd like to serve on it. And also, you don't actually have to be on the committee to participate in a project but we certainly are gonna, that is definitely a big priority for us, huge priority, one of the biggest. Thank you.
Visitor recognitions. 1 3-minute opportunity to address the board on issues not related to the agenda.
Have a couple things. So really the main thing I want to address is our housing situation. I've watched, even when I have not come, I watch every single board meeting and scrutinize it. This meeting, planning, zoning, every single meeting that kind of goes on. And through the planning meetings, the planning board meetings, I hear a lot of presentations on new buildings, new projects coming for more housing. in the past probably month, I haven't heard anything about the affordable housing. The last that was stated was that there had to be some things done. I don't know what the correct wording is, but you had to look at the space because, or assess the space because it used to be a Con Ed place of whatever the proper word is. And after that, I have not heard anything else. Time after time, the last meeting you had someone come in and they want to do the Arcadian and make it a mixed use. Who then said that yes, they will have the 10% regulation for affordable housing, and it will be medium, not luxury, but medium. What is medium? That was not even asked. And I'm not saying that you had to ask it then, but that was not even addressed. What is medium? Because these places are going up and we are not able to afford them. The community just cannot afford them. And then that's a form of gentrification. And there's cons to gentrification. There are also pros, but the pros don't necessarily help the working class or those who are below income level. The cons are it takes away from the culture of our community. So these apartments are going up, the rents are going high, and people who have built this community have to leave. They literally have to leave. So that has to be addressed. And it's not to mock anything, but just like we're excited about an elevator, we need to be excited about affordable housing going up. We need to address that. And I'm saying week after week, it should be addressed. It should be assessed. It should be looked at. It shouldn't be put on the back burner because during a couple of meetings, the last meeting when you were talking about the affordable housing and one of the board members had addressed the timing, like what are we going to tell the public? Like, this is a long time now.
Time.
Time up. Mhm.
3 minutes,
3
so
minutes.
you're keeping the time?
Okay, I'll be very quick, but like it was addressed, and here it was when that was brought up, it was like we're not going to basically tell the public a time frame, and like that has to be addressed. Like this affordable housing we've been talking about it for a very long time. In surrounding communities, Peekskill, Greenberg, people who are spaces who have received some similar money or even the same type of funding, their affordable housing is almost finished. So we have to address that.
Right, so a couple ways it's addressed. Number one,
Mhm.
we passed legislation a while ago, so when anybody bills, 10% is automatically goes to affordable. That's an automatic. It
Right.
doesn't need to be addressed each time because it's automatic. Even in those communities from a percent of affordable housing, we actually have one of the highest of most communities except cities. Peekskill is actually a city, but except for cities,
Mhm.
which, have very different rules in place. And the one that's really coming up is all affordable. It's 100% affordable.
Mhm.
So those units on their own is bigger than a lot of other communities who talk about it, but really they do 11 units, 15 units, 20 units, they talk. So actually we've continuously moved. It doesn't get discussed because it's already in the way it's being done. They don't need to discuss it as much about more affordable housing. It's part of when they build, it's included in the template that they have to use, no matter what they're doing. That's legislation that was passed already. So I think that's one of the way. I'm not saying it's the only way. I went to a meeting last Friday. Really, almost every community in Westchester is unaffordable to many people. It's one of the most expensive places to live. So I think all communities are looking at it. But to answer about the discussions, I just think that some of it is in there already. And a developer has to come in and say, I'm going to build affordable, and we try to see how we can move it along. And that's probably what's happening in zoning and planning, et cetera. We're pretty densely populated, not a heck of a lot more room to build large buildings. The Market Square is being looked at for possibly mixed use, but I don't know where it's going to land. So those are just some of the things. And the cities are, New Rochelle, White Plains, and so many of the cities have actually, because they had their own issues in the past 5 years, have increased anywhere from 20 to 30% of available apartments. Many of them are a little bit smaller. That way they can fit more apartments, but then larger families aren't convenienced by that, because if you have a large family, a small 2 bedrooms not helping you. So those are some of the ways that it's being addressed. And I appreciate the input. And I think it is part of the conversation. So.
Can I just address I wasn't saying conversations about the 10% affordable housing. I know the regulations for that it's 10%. If you want to have a conversation about the 10% regulation, which is very minimum, it's stating that you have to do at least 10%. How about Austin set the tone and we do more? We don't let these builders come in and you say not 10%, let's give 20% to affordable housing, because we need our community to have a place to live. So let's change the narrative. We can change the narrative, and that's regulation is regulation, but you can do more than regulation. So we're talking about, I have a list of, I wrote down in the planning board, every builder that went. I have like 5 of them. It's like, it is a lot for that builders are coming in and they're building. And yes, they are giving the 10%, but come on, do we really believe that that is enough? And one of the builders is 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. You stated we need family size apartments here, not 1 and 2 bedrooms. We need 3 bedrooms. You know how hard it is to find a 3-bedroom here in Austin? It is like unknown. So I'm just
so my
saying.
comment was that I went to a conference about this all over Westchester. It's not unique to Austin. In fact, Austin statistically has many more than most of the communities around here. So I just want to be quoted correctly, but I appreciate the input. And I'm hoping that 109 unit building, which we've talked about for a while, might have some good news that maybe we can move forward. That's a lot of units.
So 109 units of affordable housing down by the 30 Water Street project is approved. It's got all, it's basically ready to go. I think there's things that once it goes through the planning process, there's a process that really is out of the village's hands. That happens to be a brownfield area. So in order for the building to be built, that has to be remediated. So right now the developer is negotiating with Con Edison on the time frame of that. Unfortunately, none of this moves as quickly as we would like it to move. I think we all feel the same. So we are meeting and making sure that we're doing everything we can on our end to put pressure on the utility companies when there's a cleanup involved. But that is going through the pipeline. The typical timeline for a building like that to be built is 3 to 4 years.
I'm just gonna say, I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm just gonna say transparency is key though, because no one, it's fine that it's gonna take this time.
Next week, I'll be presenting on that.
Can I finish though?
No, because actually, I'm gonna just be fair here. It's we're now going back and forth. There's a lot of transparency in this building. There has been from day one, because it was village owned, over and over again. It isn't discussed every meeting because there are lots of projects. This is not the only one, but it's a big one. And we're doing a quarterly review next week. You're going to be doing on the infrastructure to exactly address these issues as far as infrastructure. So that's what we do. Every meeting, we do some things. We don't do everything that the staff is working on, because the presentation to the board. Anybody else up there that added? No?
No.
I'm not seeing anything on this end.
No.
Where are we?
Village Board resolutions.
Okay.
Approval of minutes, March 15, 2023. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby approves the minutes of March 15, 2023, regular meeting as presented. Do I
So
have a
moved.
motion?
Second.
Well, comments?
Comments? No. Approval of
No,
minutes?
no. Oh, it's, you actually have to, when you go through this, not Stuart, you have to actually go the vote, and then I turn it to you, do the vote, and then we vote.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approval of minutes, March 22, 2023, a special meeting. Resolved that the Board of Trustee of the Village of Austin hereby approves the minutes of the March 22, 2023, special meeting as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in
Go ahead,
favor?
yeah.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Approval of voucher details, April 4, 2023. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby approves the voucher detail report dated April 4, 2023 in the amount of $966,559.76. Do we have a motion?
So move.
Need a second.
Second.
Any comments?
Thank you.
Manny, any comments? You're
No,
good?
no.
Okay, go
All in
ahead.
Water
favor?
and general funds and
Everything's,
capital.
okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Finance adjustments of 2022, improvement Joseph G. Caputo Community Center, capital project from some grant funding, capital projects transfer, and general fund balancing. Whereas the village management established a capital project in accordance with the project resolution approved on May 18, 2022, to establish a capital project for various improvements at the Joseph G. Caputo's Community Center, not to exceed $1,100,000. The project budget requires an adjustment of $584,639 to reflect the actual cost. The project will be funded with state and municipal facility grant funded of $5,000 and $1,000 transfer from the 2019 Community Center Functionality Assessment Project 2212 and $121,000, 64.09 transfer from 2022 pool resurfacing project 2022 and 30 and board project clause and general funds project transfer of $863,000, 574.91 represent the $600,000 transfer in 2022. In additional funds of $263,000, 574.81 to be transferred from general fund balance. Now therefore we resolve that the capital project and capital project budget are established as follows. So we have a chart that will be posted at the clerk.
On a question, it should read 500,000 and 100,000.
That is correct.
Thank you for that amendment.
Did you get that?
Yeah.
No, you got it. Did you? Okay,
And it's in the original.
all right.
Yeah. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments? And I'm gonna go, Dale, you want to give me the short version so the public understands what just happened?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Village Board. So essentially, when this project went out to bid, we had estimated project costs, and then, of course, that estimated project cost was developed a year ago. And as we know, costs have fluctuated greatly over the past year. So this requires a budget adjustment to transfer the additional funds in part from the capital fund in closing two prior projects that had balances left. So we're going to move those balances over to fund part of the difference. And the additional amount we're going to allocate from general fund balance to cover the projected costs.
Any other comments?
I do. Paul?
Is he on?
Yes.
There he is.
Hey, Paul. Based on this, so based on these changes, last time we talked about this, a schedule of value, you said you were going to be getting that from the contractor at some point.
Correct.
Now, refresh my memory, time frame wise, what is the time frame on this particular project?
I think the contract is a 6-month window, if I'm not mistaken.
the 6 months, I'm assuming is, and obviously you went through the process. I'm hoping, what happens if there's a change order?
Do you want to be more specific or just in generally speaking?
Just in general speaking, a change order of anything. Existing conditions, basically that's what happens when existing conditions come through and then the drawings do not reflect existing conditions. What happens then? Obviously, as you know, a change order happens. What
Yeah.
happens?
All right, I understand the nature of your question now. So just like other projects, it will be negotiated, whether it's a credit or a increased change order. And we'll bring it back to the project for approval. If there's money available in the project because we can save it somewhere else, we will execute it that way. If we need to come back to the board, if the change order warrants coming back to the board based on the amount, we will do that too.
So this, as part, I don't want to deviate from this whole thing, so you're gonna get the approval, obviously, but I just want to be mindful that allowances are are critical. Where allowances are part of the bid, it kind of saves some of the change orders, or at least try to alleviate some of the change orders like this. I don't need to tell you how to do your job, obviously, but my concern is if existing conditions because of the building, the nature of the building itself, the pool and everything else, I will hate that while we are paying for this is going to increase before the completion of this project, or at least this phase one of this project for the community center.
Yeah, you and me both. And in the contract, there's some line item encumbrances in there that were set, and we left them some conservative lines in there to have a little wiggle room if something needs to be negotiated in the field. And then there's always some wiggle room in the capital funding for the overall project. But again, we keep it very restricted to what's actually awarded the contractor, so we don't have that built-in incentive for him to spend to the budget versus spend to his contract.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 DPW aware of bid natatorium renovation Joseph G. Caputo Community Center. Resolved that subject to review by the Corporation Council, the Board of Trustees of the Village of Boston hereby awards the bid of contract number DPW-23-02 natatorium renovation Joseph G. Caputo Community Center to Priori Corp., if I'm not saying wrong, 84 Carver Street, Suite 2B, Harrison, New York, for the bid amount of $1,497,189 as the lowest bid received from the responsive and responsible bidder. And before the resolve, that upon review to the Corporation Council, the village management is authorized to sign the aforementioned contract with Priori Corp. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any comments?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Appointment of Civilian Police Complaint Review Board, Sheila Conklin. Whereas the local law 1/2023 filed with on February 22, 2023, amend Chapter 8 of the Code of the Village of Boston relating to the Civil Police Complaint Review Board, and whereas the Section A-58 regarding selection appointment of member provides in Part 1, voting member of one alternative member shall be resident of the unincorporated area of the town of Boston and shall be recommended to the Board of Trustees of the Town Council and Town of Boston. Residents of the unincorporated area of the town of Boston are eligible for CPCRB membership as long as the Boston Police Department provides police service to the unincorporated area. And whereas the town council has recommended to the Board of Trustees the appointment of Sheila Conklin as the voting member of CPCRB from the unincorporated area to the town of Boston, and whereas the Board of Trustees has reviewed Ms. Conklin's letter of interest, now therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees appoint Sheila Conklin to the Civilian Police Complaint Review Board as voting member for from the unincorporated area of the town of Ossining for 2 years term expiring on December 31st, 2024. To have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any comments, like from the liaison, or are we ready to go?
Ready to go.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Authorizing settlement of Carlos M. Ugunya and Carmel Levy Puma versus Village of Ossining and Michael T. Escarduso. Resolved that upon recommendation of the Corporation Council and the Village Outside Defense Council and the Board of Trustees approves the settlement of the case Carlos M. Ugunya and Carmel Levy Puma versus Village of Ossining and Michael T. Escarduso comments in Supreme Court, Westchester County, under index number 63006-2022 for $275,000, and is further resolved that upon review by the Corporation Council at the general release and the stipulation of the prejudice of village treasury is authorized to issue a check in the remaining amount of the village remaining self-insurance retention of $1,000 of the balance to be paid with the village insurance care.
Want to comment?
Just to be clear, it's
Sorry.
$100,000.
Yes, thank you. I was looking your way when I was reading it, so that'll be changed.
Do you have a motion?
So move.
Second.
All right, so I'm not asking for comments. We have been discussing this at meetings over and over again. It's the insurance and we're ready for a vote. Vote.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Adoption of expenses reimbursement policy for elected official. Resolved that the Board of Trustees adopts the expense reimbursement policy for elected official policy, which policy will be subject to periodic review by the Board of Trustees, and before the result that the policy is reprinted below and will be made available to village elected officials and the public. Stuart, do you want to comment on something on this? There was a public. Okay, do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Comments?
Mayor, I know that Ms. Carver had raised a question.
Yeah.
It does point out that the elected official shall send an email to the Board of Trustees.
Right.
It was the circumstance that if for some reason an event came up and the email was not sent, this would at least provide the backup in that event.
Right. So we've worked on this for a long time because, as we know, elected officials, not just us, but right up to the President of the United States, we are elected. We don't get hired, we don't get fired. We, in a sense, don't really report to anybody directly. But there has to be processes for checks and balances. So the person who has to pay us actually works for us. It's a weird relationship. I give you that, but it's also weird that elected officials have no qualifications to run right up to the President of the United States. So once we accept the weirdness of our democratic system, I think this board has done a yeoman's job, and I think it's over a year now that we've been discussing reimbursements. We don't get reimbursed when we have a meal with people or pay for coffee with a constituent or anything like that. We actually get nothing, and we don't get really paid more than a stipend, not even minimum wage. So it's an interesting structure, and every municipality, as it turns out, is a little different. Cities, of course, the mayors are fully paid, they have staff, they have all sorts of stuff. And to make matters more complicated, the supervisor in Ossining is a fully paid job. It's not a full-time, but it's a fully paid job with all the other accoutrements. She's both executive and elected. So that adds, I think, some folks don't understand that we're sort of different. The mayor is different than supervisor in that sense. She's legislative and executive, excuse me, rolled up into one person because the town is much, much smaller than the village. So there were a lot of conversations with past mayors and electeds, you know, to pay for a meal when you were the constituent, or to pay for this, or to pay, and it's complicated.
So the best way that we thought is to be very transparent. We've been discussing this. I think it's more than a year, to be honest with you. I'm going to say 3 years, but I don't want to embarrass myself because it is complicated in one way. And the other way, I think we're there. And I think it's fair, and you need 3-person vote, which means that whatever a trustee does, or the mayor, or whatever deputy mayor, has to be approved by at least 3 people. And I think that's a fair checks and balance, so that it doesn't put the village manager in a very awkward scenario of having to approve or not approve something that their, in essence, boss asked them to do, right? So it keeps it very transparent, very clear. It shows up in the audit reports, etc. So we have this now for a while. I know it's gone through many reiterations. I'm looking to my right. Are there any comments or any issues at this point with this? Sir.
I will make my comments on before I vote.
Well, we're there.
You're there.
We're there. I've made my
Then-
comments.
Okay, then that's fine. No,
We
I
are
know
there.
we're voting, and obviously there's times or circumstances where in the past, I have voted no for changing the salary. Sure, I think some of us were there, and I said no to that because I think we chose to be an elected official. We are choosing to do this. You know, I stand by what I said last time, and I'm going to stand in what I'm going to say tonight is, although I do understand, but we also have a choice. When we choose to do this, we are choosing to do a lot of things in a way. So just to give you an example, when I go out or when I go to a function that I'm representing the village for any case may be, the meals, the gas, my car, I pay for all those things. And I have never, I think once I asked for reimbursement, and that was a hotel that I stayed for one night, I think in Albany. And that was the only time. Besides that, I have never asked for any other stuff. So I'm going to stand for what I said last time, and I'm going to say my vote. I'm going to say no, but I know the majority rules. So, but that's where we stand.
I just want to be clear again. This is not for anything but actual events related to village business that we would otherwise not be doing. It is approved by at least 3 people. So if somebody needs to go to a seminar, and out of all the years I've been doing it, you do a lot of the audits. If we've had since I've been mayor, if we've had a dozen of these requests, I would say we probably had 3. Maybe. So this also sets up rules for future boards so that individuals do not self-select what they think they should be reimbursed for. Because for those of you who watch us, while we're a very quiet board, there have been boards where there have been serious issues about reimbursements. So this eliminates all of that, in my opinion, or at least until something new comes up. It helps with that. And so I actually applaud the board for coming up. But I do want to make it clear, not to mention, I want to make it clear that when I pick up the tab for all my constituents, hopefully they're listening tonight and realize that unbeknownst to them, I actually pay for it out of my own personal money, not from this, not from the taxpayers' money. So we're in a vote.
All in favor?
You're on. Aye.
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 No.
And 1 no.
Authorizing the implementation and funding in the first instance, 100% of the federal aid eligible cost of the transportation federal aid project and appropriating funds. Therefore, whereas a project of the village of Austin and Payne 8763.07, the project is eligible for funding.
I'm just going to move the mic a little bit closer. Somehow you were clearer before. Thank you.
For funding under the Title 23 U.S. Code as amended that calls for the appropriate to the cost such programs to be borne in the ratio of 80% federal funds and 20% non-federal funds. And whereas the Village of Austin desire to advance the project by making a commitment of 100% of the non-federal share of the cost of preliminary engineering. Now therefore be resolved that the village board of trustees hereby approves the above subject project, and is further resolved that the board of trustees hereby authorize the village of Austining to pay in the first instance 100% of the federal and non-federal share of the cost of preliminary engineering work for the project, and portion therefore is it further resolved that the sum of $394,000 is hereby approved by pursuant permissive referendum and make available to cover the cost of participation in the world phase of the project. And is further resolved that in this event, the full federal and non-federal share cost of the project exceeds the amount appropriate above, the village board shall convene as soon as possible to appropriate said excess amount immediately upon notification by the village management thereof. And is further resolved that the village manager of the village of Austining being hereby authorized to execute all necessary agreements, certification, and reimbursement requests for the federal aid and applicable marchiously aid, and on behalf of the village of Austining with the New York State Department of Transportation in connection with the advance of or approval of the project, or providing the administration of the project in the municipalities first instance funding of the project cost and permanent fundings of the local share and federal aid and state aid eligible project costs and all project costs within appropriation therefore that are not so eligible. And it's for the resolve that in addition to the village manager, the following municipal titles, village engineer and village trustees are also hereby authorized to execute any necessary agreements and certifications on behalf of the municipality sponsored with New York's SDOT in connection with the advance or approval in the project in 8 and 5 in the state local agreement, and it's for the resolve that a certified copy of this resolution be filed with the New York State Commissioner in Transportation by attaching it to a necessary agreement in connection with the project. And it's for the resolve that the resolution shall take effect immediately. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments?
Let me just make one correction. I think that Janet incorrectly said that the following municipal titles are authorized to execute documents. That should be village engineer and village treasurer. I think it came as village trustees, which is not correct. It would be the village manager, village engineer, village treasurer. That is in the original resolution. So I just wanted to
Okay.
be clear for the record.
Thank you, Stuart.
Sure.
A lot of reading.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 A resolution authorizing the Road Diet project in a for the village of Austin in Westchester County, New York, at the maximum estimated cost of $4,924,000 and authorizing subject to the premises referendum to insurance a $4,924,000 serial bond of said village to pay the cost thereof be resolved by the affirmative vote not less than 2/3 of the total voting exchange in the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin, Westchester County, New York as follows. Section 1, the Road Diet project and for the Village of Austin in Westchester County, New York includes costs incidental thereto and hereby authorized subject to permissive referendum of the maximum estimate cost of $4,924,000. Section 2, the plans for the financing and oversight maximum estimate cost and by the insurance of $4,924,000. Serial bond in said village hereby authorized to be issued, therefore pursuant to the provision of the local finance law provide, however, that the amount of the serial bond ultimate to be issued shall be reduced by the amount of any grant monies received, therefore presenting estimate of the amount of $3,939,000. And section 9, upon the resolution taking effect on the same shall be published in summary from the official newspaper of said village for such a purpose, together with the notice of the village clerk and subsequently the form provided in section 81.00 of the local finance law. Section 10, this resolution is adopted subject to permissive referendum. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any comments?
All in
Uh,
favor?
I'm sorry.
Any comments?
Yeah, I
Okay.
do that part. You do. The comments, the only comment I'll make is just for the public who follows this, because like everything else, it goes quickly, that we don't talk about it, that it goes quickly. This is a 20-year project. I don't know if quickly would ever be a word I'd use with it, but we're making headway in the past, I would say 3 years, like we've never done before. I'm sorry. Roll call. Oh, okay. So this is the one, I think, Karen, where we were very excited to receive a $4 million grant from Mondaire Jones when he was leaving office as congressman. We didn't realize at that point that it comes with, like all grants, with lots of strings. Good strings, bad strings, all strings, but this one requires the village to put up 20%. So we're taking out a bond, and I assume, Dale, we're taking out a bond for the total amount because you first have to pay for things, then you get reimbursed. So better today than it'll be in a year. When I'm looking at the bond market, it's probably better in the present that it will be a year from now. Not that I'm that I have any inside knowledge to that. It just seems to be the way. So that's what this is about for the public who's been following and wondering why we're bonding now for this. Then we discussed this, I think, earlier, that this will create parking, this will create slowing traffic down. So it's not used like a highway. There are other highways that folks are supposed, the trucks and cars supposed to use. And hopefully will help some of the businesses and actually will make the whole thing look better. But it's a state road, so we are dependent on state to do the project. So that's the difference in the amount and why we're bonding at this point. Any other comments? Okay.
Okay, so we have a roll call for this. Trustee Robert Fritchie,
Aye.
trustee Dana White,
Aye.
trustee Manuel Quesada,
Aye.
deputy mayor Omar Lopez,
Aye.
Mayor Rick Levin.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, Karen, one step closer, my friend. One step closer.
Finance establishment of 2023 road diet capital project from federal grant funding and debt financing. Whereas the village management wishes to establish a capital project in accordance with the 2023 capital plan for Route 9 road diet improvement not to exceed $4,924,000. The final project cost will be funded by federal congressional grant funding of $3,939,000 and $985,000 in debt financing. The bond resolution includes the total project cost for cash flow purposes. Now therefore we resolve the capital project and capital project budget are established as follow. Do we have a motion?
So move.
Thank you.
Second. Comments?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Finance 2022, adjustment of 2022 street sidewalk and signalized intersection improvement various areas, capital project and debt finance source and chip is the 8, whereas the village management established a capital project in accordance with the 2022 capital plan for street resurfacing, sidewalk and signalizing for various village street of 861,500. The project amount requires an increase of 228,500 to recognize additional CHIPS state aid funding for the total project budget of $1,090,000. And now therefore we resolve the capital project and capital project budget are established as follow. To have a motion?
So move.
Yeah.
Second.
Any comments?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Finance 2022, adjustment of 2022 street sidewalk signalized intersection improvement 5 corners capital project from the financing source, that's funding and CHIPS state aid. whereas the village management established the capital project accordance with the 2022 capital plan for street resurfacing sidewalk inside zone the five corners intersection of $1,078,500. The project amount requires a decrease of $800,000.1866 to $978,481.34 founded from $850,000 New York as Disney grant and $128,481.34 from general fund balance. And now therefore we resolve the capital project and capital project budget are established as follow. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Dale, you look a little bit bored. Did you want to comment? I mean, we're moving funds around to cover the discuss, right? It's from one fund to another. Thanks. Okay, we're ready.
Creation of Village of Austin Placemaking Committee. Whereas placemaking is it's identified as practice of designing, creating, and programming public spaces around the needs of desires of community of user and placemaking process contribute as much benefits of the community empowerment as it does for the creating public spaces themselves, blurring lines between the layperson and professionals to create a strong community of making. And whereas placemaking seeks to be spark public disclosure, create beauty and delight, engender civic pride, support community health and safety, grow social justice, build and improve public spaces, catalyze economic development, promote environment sustainability, nurture an authentic sense of place, and whereas an effective placemaking process capitalizing the local community as the inspiration and potential, the results of creation of quality public spaces that contribute to people's health, happiness, and well-being. And whereas example of placemaking can be seen as a Hudson Valley municipalities and well as a communities throughout the country. And whereas the Board of Trustees believe that the creation of placemaking committee will build communities and making the village public spaces more functional, beautiful, and inclusive. Initiate ideas and serve at the sounding board for ideas of the community members, work with the community and collaborate process, focus on improvement, connectivity, and walkability, ensuring the village public spaces are attractive and welcome to all. Identify especially location in the village that could benefit from enhance and suggest cost-effective improvement that transform these places using public art, landscaping, streetscaping, historical signage, and event. Collaborate with the village land use board, recreation and parks department, community and young groups, local business and nonprofits. Facilitate community engagement and upcoming infrastructure project, including the downtown revitalization initiative, the Five Corners intersection, and the Route 9 road diet. And therefore we resolve that the Village of Boston Placemaking Committee is established. And it for the resolve that the Village of Boston Placemaking Committee will have no fewer than 7, no more than 11 members who are resident of the Village of Boston and appointed by the Board of Trustees. Have 2 members designated as co-chairperson by the Board of Trustees, have liaison from the Board of Trustees. Hold meetings at the call of the committee chair, which meetings will be open to the public, include among the members artists, architects, urban planners, landscapers, gardeners, business owners, students, community leaders, etc. Utilize a diverse network and community creator to assist the committee in work. Report to the Board of Trustees not less than twice a year, and before the resolve that unless extended by the Board of Trustees, the Village of Boston Placemaking Committee will be discontinued effective December 31st, 2027. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, comments?
I have one question, a comment, a question, a comment. Nux, good work. This is sweet. The question is why co-chairpersons as opposed to a chair and a vice chair or something like that?
Because it's a collaborative group and sometimes it's good.
I can't tell the joke, but my son telling me to speak into the mic, sorry. It's a collaborative group and we'd like to have two people who can field different ideas. I think we're gonna have a lot going on. And I just think it allows for two people to lead different projects.
Dope. Thank you.
Okay, it's different. We don't have actually that kind of a system, but you know, we try to have, I guess, 14 committees now representing, I don't know, probably 120 people of the public. Throughout, we have 27,000 people in the village. So, you know, in and of itself, the committees of volunteers represent many facets of life in, you know, throughout our village. So just, we said this last week, but just to repeat, we actually took down a committee and we're adding this committee. And that just speaks to the fact that government does have to be flexible in the sense of every few years, things change. What happened 20, 30, 40 years ago is not what needs to happen now. There has been a lot of requests for this kind of thing. You did your research. I forgot, Stuart, that I probably need to appoint a liaison for this committee because Dana White doesn't automatically become a liaison just because she was the liaison for the last one, right? Do we do that tonight or we have to put a whole thing in place? And that assumes she wants the job.
It's your call. So you don't have to do it tonight. You can do it whenever you wish.
It's a simple appointment and a vote, right? Do you want it?
Yeah,
I
sure.
know you do, but
Wow.
look
Of
at you.
course, kidding.
Create a committee, get to liaise. So I like everything about it. I know Tarrytown's been pretty successful. I know that this also avoids the squeaky wheel concept, but actually gets a collaborative approach. We've had times in the past where 2 or 3 people just show up more and therefore get what they want, but that's not really the way it's supposed to work. Collaboration means that quiet people and loud people have equal voices. So I'm thrilled, and I'm thrilled that we're not going to be deciding about all the different aspects, but rather a committee of a group of people who live and play and work in our community. So the only thing I wanted to ask, which I forgot to ask you last time, so they have to be residents of the village. We're not including the town, but the town does not have a similar group to this. Okay. So that was discussed. We thought this out, and this is what you guys want. Okay. And I don't think it requires a staff person because the other one didn't have it, and you'll have your regular meetings, you'll go on the website and all that. So I think this is very exciting at a time when we have, for the first time in, I don't know, a century or decades or whatever the heck it is, of projects that include, how do you include space? How do you, and after COVID, we learned that space, the parks, and this, and that, you'll be coordinating some of these events and bring in front of the board because they're recommendations to the board. Any other questions or comments or?
I don't think that needs to be official, but Paul mentioned last time that
Yeah.
he was interested in
Yes.
being connected to it. I don't think it needs to be,
Paul Fraioli?
yes,
Okay.
yes, for sure. The only Paul.
Well, I think
Oh,
any
no,
staff.
absolutely. Yeah.
The only Paul.
I have to update
Name
the
another
language to include Operations Center. but
Okay,
we'll
so
be collaborating.
you guys will figure that out. So let's.
Paul
get-
knows that he has all the answers. so.
He does.
Okay, so we are in the middle of a vote, and then we're going to go into a vote for appointment. Go ahead.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
And so I'd like to appoint Dana White as the liaison to, is it called the, I hate the name, you already know that, but you guys like it, so there's nothing I can do.
Love it.
Placement Committee. Not going to fight over that, so do I have,
You don't need a vote for that.
no, but we all should agree on this. I'm appointing, but.
Like at the beginning of the year, you always.
I
appoint.
know, I appoint in the beginning of the year, but I just want to make sure when you have a new committee, like with the landlord tenant, when we re-engineered, I'd like to, if there's anybody, they should speak now or hold their peace. We're good. Oh,
Okay.
Well, I'd just like to say that anyone on this board is obviously welcome to be involved in any way they like in terms of ideas and.
Don't worry, the
Feedback.
first first painting you come up with, there will be lots of involvement because deciding on the right color blue always seems to take hours. So, no, we're excited because it's worked in other communities. Why not ours, right? And it'll involve a lot of the creative souls that we have who've been asking for this. This is great. Okay, we're on to the next thing.
Thank you. Authorizing to sign intermunicipal agreement for use of transfer station. Resolved that upon review by the Corporation Council, the village manager is authorized to sign an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Cortland, host community, village of Croton-on-Hudson, village of Buchanan, town of Ossining, city of Peekskill, and town of Yorktown, allowing these municipalities and the village of Ossining to deliver committed recycled goods to the transfer station on Hook Road in the town of Cortland, which transfer station will be operated by the county of Westchester or Westchester County contractor personnel. And be further resolved that the agreement shall be effective April 1st, 2023 through March 31st, 2029, and be further resolved that the fee per month per municipality shall be $802 for the period of April 1st, 2023 to March 31st, 2024, and the subsequent years. The fee per month shall be the prior year's total increase by the New York State corporate tax cap. And for the resolve that there will no tipping fee charged to the Westchester County for paper, glass, metal, or plastic, and should that change the fee charged by the town of Cortland to the other municipalities shall be increased by each municipality share of the tipping fee. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Thank you.
Any comments?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Continuing business of the board.
Anybody have continuing business? Okay.
New business of the board.
Anybody? Okay.
Do we have a motion to adjourn into executive session for
Matters of personnel, matters of real property and matters of litigation. Thank you.
thank you.
So moved.
Second. Any comments on that? I doubt it.
No, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is 9:27 Tuesday, and I have to remind myself the date, April 4th. And I welcome everybody back next Wednesday at our regularly scheduled time, place, etc. And have a wonderful rest of the week.